On today's show, the New York Knicks get what might be their best win of the season as they take down the San Antonio Spurs. Nimish Queta, him. He leads the Boston Celtics to a huge win over the Sixers, and we talk about every game from all of the action in the NBA this Sunday right here on Locked On NBA Game Night.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
What's up, everybody? My name is Danny Cunningham from Locked On Cavs. You Swipa from Locked On Nuggets, and you're listening to the latest edition of Locked On NBA Game Night, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network in all of America. You can find this show and any other Locked On podcast anywhere you get them. That's Apple, that's Spotify, that's on YouTube as well. If you're watching right now, please do us a favor, hit the thumbs up button for us, and if you have not already, hit that notification bell as well. And today's edition of Locked On NBA Game Night brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. Head to FanDuel.com today to get started. That is FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. We begin today's show with the New York Knicks getting a 114-89 win over the San Antonio Spurs on Sunday afternoon. Mikal Bridges had an awesome game for New York. He had 25 points on 5 made threes. Mohamed Diawara had 14 points in 15 minutes. He got 13 3-pointers up in 15 minutes on the floor. And so I think that this is the win that the Knicks should be happiest about so far this year.
Hey, New York, big boy! What a win for the New York Knicks! Wow, what a game! Yo, if I live in New York, I would be hyped. You beat the best team in the league on a, 11, 12 game win streak? Dominant performance for New York. Yo, when Mikal Bridges is playing like that is the kind of championship level acquisition that the New York Knicks were hoping they were going to get. 5 steals today. And the steals don't even tell the full story. He literally did not let anyone breathe today. He was phenomenal. Had an open court steal in the fourth quarter to continue to put the game away as well. Jalen Brunson didn't even have to have a super crazy game. 24 and 7 for him. That's obviously a good basketball game, but you got great minutes from Mikal. Diawara, as you said, played great today. They got Jose Alvarado, again, only 3 points, but I think New York is going to continue to fall in love with the Puerto Rican superstar himself. That dude does everything that you want from a point guard. He passes, he plays aggressive defense, he does everything that the team asks him to do. They have a squad in New York, and this is the kind of win you want. On March 1st, heading into the final stretch of the year, the last 20 games, you want to find out what's inside your DNA. How can you respond versus the very best in the league? In New York, they brought San Antonio into their building, and they absolutely dominated them from start to finish. That was an excellent game by the New York Knicks.
It was really impressive, and I thought one of the things that really stood out to me about this game is the way that they responded, because they got off to a bad start. They were trailing, I think it was 19-7. Like, their starters in their first run in this game did not play well whatsoever. And then when Mike Brown put Mitch Robinson in the game for Karl-Anthony Towns in the first quarter, at the normal part in the quarter where he does, that's when the Knicks were really able to turn things around on both ends. And I think it got up to a 25-2 run at a certain point for the Knicks. I think that's what it finished up as before the Spurs were able to find their footing, and they really never were able to get back as close as they'd like. I think they cut it to 9 or 8 in the third quarter at certain points, but this was, I think, as dominating of a performance as I've seen from the Knicks so far this year. But for me, I also look at this and say, this is who the Knicks are capable of being.
Mm-hmm.
And the team that they are capable of being compared to the team that they have been most of the season, I think is why a lot of Knicks fans, not about today in specific, but have been frustrated with what this team has been so far this year, is because they're capable of having days like this one. It's just the days like this one are kind of almost always followed up with they play the Miami Heat and they struggle or they lose that type of game.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. I just think that, the season is so long, and, obviously we're going to get to the rest of the league. There are so many other teams that are struggling with consistency in their own right. They just don't have the the health, the synergy, the connectivity, like all the things that you're looking for from a basketball team, they're struggling with. And I think the Knicks are on the opposite end in some ways. Like it took them a while to kind of get healthy, get everybody on the floor, and to reestablish your identity. But again, I think games like this are catapults, and they can launch the Knicks into that next tier that they're looking to get into, man. And like a lot of this is just getting energy with your team headed into the playoffs. And how can these last 20 games you continue to make statements? Y'all, they have Toronto coming up. They got OKC, and then they got Denver, and they got the Lakers. Like, they got 4 really tough games coming up. And then after that, they even got the Clippers, and the Clippers are still a really good team. So really 5 teams that are either in the playoffs or trying to get in the playoff picture and in the play-in. And so we're going to find out a lot about this New York team. But the fact that they were able to handle business and have an 89 defensive rating versus this San Antonio team, I think speaks a lot to just how good they could get over the next couple of weeks.
So as we wrap up this conversation, I do want to bring up the odds to win the Eastern Conference because I think it's interesting the way FanDuel looks at these things. And it's just something like I like to keep tabs on throughout the season. So as of 12:50 in the morning on Monday, March 2nd, the Boston Celtics are favored to come out of the Eastern Conference and reach the NBA Finals. They are plus 250. The Cavaliers are right behind them at plus 260. And then there's a gap before you get to the New York Knicks. They're at plus 410. So like that's not the longest shot. It's not inconceivable, but the FanDuel views the Knicks as a step below those first 2 teams. And then the Pistons are just below the Knicks at plus 420. Do you think that's the right order?
I don't think anybody should be headed to the Knicks other than Detroit, probably, out of that conference right now.
So you would have it backwards. I disagree with that. I
who do you think should be
have
headed?
It right. I think both Boston and Cleveland should be. I think that, and it's not even about thinking the Knicks are a lesser team. It's about, I think those 2 teams present matchup problems for the Knicks that I don't know that they have answers to. Like that to me has been part of the problem, part of the reason why I don't know that I can buy into the Knicks. I feel similarly with Detroit. Like, could the Knicks get to the finals? Sure, but they probably need to avoid Boston and Cleveland. And I think the same thing in the Pistons, who we'll talk about in a minute.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the logic. You know, last year, again, different season, I understand. But the Knicks bodied the Celtics. So there's a world in which, you know, the Celtics, maybe their offense is cooking the whole series. But, you know, JB versus OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges by himself for an entire series, that I think that will be a little tougher than we're giving it credit for. Like, JB can have a good series, but also, like, I think there's more way the Knicks can attack, like, the Celtics than opposite. Now, Cleveland would be another story. You know, James Harden, you know, Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, they all have to be there. Not even including Donovan Mitchell in there. Like Jalen Tyson, they got to find ways. Sam Merrill, Max Strus, you're going to need those players in that series because the thing that I think the Knicks are going to have on their side that they weren't utilizing in the same way last year, they're going to have a lot of depth and a lot of optionality. I think that's actually going to be the thing that makes them most dangerous this upcoming playoffs.
I think the thing that worries me the most is at the end of the day, their point guard is not a good defender and their starting center is also not a good defender. And I just think those 2 things are tough to overcome to actually get to the NBA Finals. But I do want to move on to the team that is at the top of the Western Conference standings, the Oklahoma City Thunder, as they played the Dallas Mavericks on Sunday. The OKC Thunder in this one, they finished with a win of a final score of 100-87. Here is our guy, Nick Ingstad from Locked On Mavericks with more.
They made history for the Dallas Mavericks tonight. Mavs lose to the Thunder. The tank rolls on for them. A couple other good wins in the NBA for the Mavs tonight, but the Mavs lose this one. They just were completely depleted. A bunch of guys didn't play. Najee Marshall didn't play. PJ Washington didn't play. Cooper Flag is still out and will probably be out on Tuesday again, according to Jason Kidd. But the Mavs lose to the Thunder. The Thunder, Mavs kind of made them work. The Thunder couldn't get anything going on offense much. They had a hard time from 3. They ended up winning this game pretty comfortably because the Mavericks just could not score themselves at all against this insane Thunder defense. The Mavs tried a bunch of insane things. Dwight Powell played as the 4 next to Daniel Gafford and Moussa Cisse multiple times tonight, which was weird. But Moussa Cisse, an incredible stat line I've never seen before, and that has never happened in the NBA. 12 rebounds, 0 points, 0 assists, 0 steals, 0 blocks in this game. Wild one for Moussa Cisse. But Ryan Nembhard, AJ Johnson get time together. And, you know, it's just kind of what's happening at the end of this Mavericks season. The Mavs are trying out some of these young guys. We're seeing what happens. The Mavs lose to the Thunder, but the tank rolls on.
The tank does, in fact, rolls on. I think that this is an outcome, as we will get to later on in the show, that both teams are happy with. For the Thunder, SGA had 30 points continuing his streak. I believe he's now at 59 consecutive road games in which he scored 20 points or more, which is just a remarkable number. But overall, I think this is a game both teams are probably happy with.
Absolutely, 100%.
And up next, the Boston Celtics. They got a really nice win at home. Jason Tatum's not back, but Nimish Queta was there. We'll talk about their victory over Philly and Detroit, taking down Orlando on the road next right here on Locked On NBA Game Night. But first, today's show is brought to you by BetterHelp. March is a time to celebrate women, especially around International Women's Day, and to recognize just how much they carry at work, in relationships, in families, and in all of the unseen roles that they step into every single day. It's easy to celebrate that strength, right? But it's just as important to make space for their emotional well-being as well. And honestly, that goes for all of us. You might not know how much you're carrying in your everyday life. Maybe work is stressing you out. Maybe you've got issues going on at home. Maybe there are other things outside of your control that are really weighing you down. Well, therapy can be something that can help you with that, because they can create balance with therapy, setting healthy boundaries and supporting your overall well-being. And with over 30,000 licensed therapists and more than 6 million people served worldwide, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, and it works. Fill out a short questionnaire, get matched with a licensed therapist, and if it's not the right fit, you can switch at any time. Your emotional well-being matters. Find support and feel lighter in therapy. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/lockedonnba. That is BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedonnba. Thank you again for making this edition on Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen or watch. And thank you for making this show your first watch every single day. And if that's you, you might want to check out the Locked On Everyday Club, where you get access to ad-free versions of this show. Plus, you will also gain access to a subscriber-only Discord server with fans of every NBA team, so you can chat, hang out, and watch the games with people of the same mindset. But moving on, the Boston Celtics get a 114-98 win over the Philadelphia 76ers on Sunday night. The story of this game was not Jaylen Brown. It was, who did have a nice game, by the way, was not Derek White, who also had a solid game, but Swipa Nimish Queta had a career-high 27 points, 17 rebounds, was 10 of 14 from the floor, 7 of 10 from the free throw stripe. Easily the best game of his career, and what has been really, I think, an exclamation point on what's been a really strong season for him.
Queta has had a phenomenal season, given the fact that they needed a center. And there's a lot of speculation going into the season that they weren't going to have that spot solidified. Queta was a nice idea. Like, he's had good minutes, but rolling into a starting level player and becoming a consistent defensive player and with some offensive tools, that's really a shout out to him and the work ethic he's put in. Obviously for Joe Mazzulla, who I think is the coach of the year this year. He's having a phenomenal season, getting the best out of him, but 27-17 is nuts. That's an incredible game. And then you put 3 blocks and a steal on top of that. I mean, he was the best player on the floor today for the Boston Celtics. And the fact that you're getting that kind of production from maybe your 5th best player on the roster, and they still have, obviously, Nikola Vucevic coming off the bench. Again, I understand your sentiment that you think the Celtics could be, maybe the second best team in the second or third best team in the Eastern Conference. But if you're a Boston fan, you have reason to believe so, because obviously you got Derek White, who's a plus 21 today. He had a phenomenal game. Again, context like, Joel Embiid obviously did not play for the Philadelphia 76ers. That probably makes a bit of a difference. And obviously, Paul George as well would make a bit of a difference, but it was still a good game, still a good performance for the Celtics. And the 76ers tried to get back in it, and they tried to get back in the game. It was like a 6-point game, 4-point game going down the stretch, but then they were just able to pull it out at the end.
Yeah, let's hear, before I have one more thing on that, let's hear from John Corrales with Locked On Celtics for more.
Celtics really couldn't shake the Philadelphia 76ers until the end. Credit Tyrese Maxey and DJ Edgecombe for that. But Nimish Queta is the story of this game. I'm John Corrales from the Locked On Celtics podcast. Queta, 27 points, 17 rebounds, and 27 points is easily a career high. He was just a monster at the beginning with a ton of offensive rebounds. The Celtics early on offensively rebounded half of their misses in the first half, giving themselves enough chances with cold shooting. Obviously, you got to miss a lot of shots to get a lot of offensive rebounds. but giving themselves a chance to hang around and start to pull away in the second quarter when Derek White got going, when Jaylen Brown got cooking. But it's Queta. It's all about Queta. The finish at the end with the big power move and offensive rebound at the end. Like, this was his night, and there's just nothing more to say about this. This is Neemias Queta's night. He was awesome, and the Celtics get a 16-point win over the Sixers, and I'll be talking about it on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
To your point about the lead being down to 6, there was a swing moment I felt like in this game, because this was I believe the Celtics were ahead by 6. There was a missed shot. VJ Edgecombe chases down the loose ball, dives into the stands, saves the ball off of Sam Hauser's leg, accidentally kicks a woman sitting courtside in the face. Sixers get the ball, down by 6, opportunity to go down by 3. They don't capitalize. That possession after a challenge ends with Edgecombe airballing a 3-pointer near the end of the shot clock. I think Sam Hauser hit a 3-pointer on the other end for the Celtics. They go up by 9, and just like that is when I felt like this game was decided.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, man. Again, just they did a great job of finishing the job. And, we're going to go to some other games where people did not finish the job today. But the Celtics, man, they're really good. And I'm really happy to see how successful they've been this season. And today was also another really good game for them.
One could make the case that the Denver Nuggets did not finish the job, or you could say the Minnesota Timberwolves finished the job, but the Wolves get a 117-108 win in Denver over the Nuggets. What did you see on this one?
Yeah, I think there's a few things. One is, Jokic is starting to get his groove back, hopefully. He had 35, 13, and 9, but it was like his fourth best shooting performance, which is 15 and 26, which isn't great for Jokic. It's only 58% from the field. But Jamal had a struggle bust in the first half, but really in the second half, started picking it up. He was 9 and 22. He had 25 points today. So you get 70 points between 60 points rather, between your two best players. But the thing is, Danny, Jokic was a +4 in this game. He was a +15, +14 last game. They were a -21 when he was not on the court versus the OKC Thunder. And today, I believe they were a -15 when he didn't play today. That's just not acceptable, man. And, they are in desperate need of Aaron Gordon and Peyton Watson coming back. And they didn't have Spencer Jones either. And so when the Nuggets don't have their wings, they have to go small, or rather, they don't have to. David Adelman plays small. And at the top of the second quarter, the Nuggets had a 31-22 lead. They held the OKC Thunder to 21 in the first quarter and held the Minnesota Timberwolves to 22 in the first quarter. Their first quarter defense in the last 3 games, including the Celtics game, has been phenomenal. Well, what happens is that they put in the second unit, which is like Cam Johnson, Jonas Valanciunas, Tim Hardaway, Bruce Brown, and Jalen Pickett or whatever in the situation. And they just got boat raced. It was horrible. It led to a 12-0 Minnesota run. And really after that point, they never got momentum back. And David Adelman, right after the game, said he has to find a unit at the top of the second quarter that is ready to play those minutes. And Jonas Valanciunas got a bad flagrant foul. Just doesn't unnecessary one where he elbowed Bones Highland in the face on a screen and roll. Jokic and Murray talked after the game, and Murray said he's not worried. The team's going to get healthy soon, and they'll figure it out because they just believe they have the best team, when they do get healthy. And Jokic, he is a little bit more not pessimistic, but, he's always I'll believe it when I see it kind of person. And, he has said that they've been in all of these games. They haven't gotten blown out against any of these good teams. Just the problem is, man, they were 3-0 versus the Wolves coming into this game, and they had momentum versus them. And today they just let go of the rope. And I think because of the injuries, Danny, I think because of, the Wolves were fully healthy today. I think because of the lack of synergy they have, they are just not playing Denver Nuggets basketball. And they suck in the clutch this year. They're like a bottom 4 clutch team. They've been a top 3 clutch team for the last 5-6 seasons. So this has been an up and down year all over the place.
I think one of the more interesting subplots of the season is going to be if and when Denver does get healthy, are they going to have enough time to figure that out? Because I think that is an underrated thing. Like, all these things look great on paper, and that's one of my things here locally with the Cavs. Like James Harden, Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, all looks great on paper.
Yeah,
they only have about 20 games to figure that out. How long of a runway is Denver going to have before the playoffs, and is it going to be enough? Like, I think that is a big and fair question to figure out prior to the NBA playoffs actually arriving. But one more game I want to get to in this segment, as the Detroit Pistons get a 106-92 win on the road over the Orlando Magic. Let's head on over to Philip Rossman-Reich with Locked On Magic for more.
This is Philip Rossman-Reich, the host of Locked On Magic here at the Kia Center. The Orlando Magic fall to the Detroit Pistons 106-92. And there's always been a lot of comparison between these two teams. Cade Cunningham was obviously the first pick in the draft the year before Paolo Banchero was. It seems like these teams are on the ascension at the same time. And a game like this reminds you why the Detroit Pistons are where they are and why the Orlando Magic are where they are. It is all about details. The Orlando Magic played a fantastic first half. They probably should have been up by 10, 12 points. Instead, they were up by just 7. It was about turnovers, it was about mistakes, and eventually those were going to catch up to the Magic. They caught up in the second half. Detroit turned up their defense. They made a lot of key shots. They went, after the game was tied in the fourth quarter, they went on a 14-2 run to take full control of the game. Orlando looked frustrated. They kept making mistakes. They compounded, and while it wasn't a 20-0 run like it was on Thursday night, it was the same effect. The Magic took themselves out of the game with mistakes. The credit goes to the Detroit Pistons. They made a lot of tough shots, made a lot of plays. It's a confident team. That is a championship-level team. And that is a team that the Magic simply are not at this point in any stretch of the imagination. Orlando was probably expected to lose this game, not the end of the world, but their chase for the sixth seed and getting out of the play-in certainly hurt by a couple of losses that felt very winnable at parts of these games. Orlando continues their homestand on Tuesday against the Washington Wizards.
I am ready to say that the Orlando Magic are not an ascending team anymore. Like, I'm just ready to say that they're disappointing, and I don't have faith that unless there are major changes this offseason that they're going to get better than they are. I just think this is who they are.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I think they had a lot of people had them as a sneaky finals pick team, but they just haven't had the synergy. Franz Wagner being out as much as he's been, and then obviously Paolo dealing with the injuries. You know, they have developing stories. You know, Jalen Suggs developing obviously into an even better player, Anthony Black. But yeah, I mean, it's just not there for them this year, unfortunately.
Shout out to Jalen Suggs, though, who shaved his head. Welcome home, brother. We are glad to have you. I think it was time to do it, and I am now buying stock. I'm not buying stock in the Magic, but I am buying stock in Jalen Suggs with the new haircut. I think it was the right thing for him to do, and I look forward to improved play out of Jalen Suggs with the haircut that he is supposed to have on his head. But we've got a few more games to get to, so we will do so next right here as we wrap up this edition of Locked On NBA Game Night. But first, today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. College basketball is nonstop. Big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night, from early tip-offs to late-night West Coast shootouts. There's always action on the board. And now FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. You can build any college hoops parlay you want. Rivalry games, ranked matchups, whatever fits your need, you can do it. You can mix spreads, totals, and player props to match how you see the slate playing out. Team may be on your mind. Miami, Ohio. They're back in action on Tuesday night, taking on the Akron Zips. Miami of Ohio, 29-0. 29-0. Can they make it 30? We'll have to wait until Tuesday to find out, but you will be able to bet on that with FanDuel. So go safe, go bold, or ride with the team that you've been following all season. It's your parlay, your style, and now with more upside behind it. So head to FanDuel.com today to get started. That is FanDuel.com, FanDuel.com today to get started. FanDuel, play your game. Today's show is also brought to you by Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, your inbox overflowing, and the one position that you have to still fill, well, it's sitting open. And when the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for Sponsored Jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. Here's the stat that says it all. In the minute that I've been talking to you, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status that it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support this show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Again, that is Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions do apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Thank you again for making this edition of Locked On NBA Game Night your first watch or listen on YouTube or wherever else you might be getting your podcast. We very greatly appreciate it. Now we head on out to Indiana, where the Pacers fall to the Grizzlies 125-106. Both of these two teams are tanking. This is not necessarily breaking news for anybody out there, but a Memphis win on a day where they had some more injury news. Zach Edey has to have another ankle surgery. We will wait and see what has to happen there, how long that recovery timeline is going to be. I imagine he doesn't play the rest of the season. But for the Pacers angle on this, let's hear from Tony East.
25 Pacers 106 is the final score here in Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Tony East up and out with Locked On Pacers. A lot that went wrong for the Pacers in this one. It was a 5-point game in the fourth quarter, though, a little bit better than many of their recent efforts. Their defense better, improved, but what cost them this one was the possession battle. 18 turnovers again for the Pacers. They were minus about 10 on the glass. The Grizzlies just had way more chances to score. That adds up over the course of the game. Pacers turnover problems have really been stacking up since the All-Star break for some obvious reasons. A lot of guys in and out of the lineups, a lot of young players having the ball more often. It all adds up to a tougher situation of continuity, a lot harder to get in any sort of offensive flow for this team right now, and that's translating to, of course, struggling defense. You're in transition more often, you're running and not matched up with your same guy, and the Pacers really struggle with all those things in their sixth straight loss tonight this time against Memphis, but good for the inverse standings. Well, much more on Locked On Pacers.
The inverse standings, the thing that is going to be referenced so often between now and the end of the season in Indiana.
Yeah, what a season for Indiana, man. But shout out to Tony East, always giving great content for his people.
He absolutely does. He is one of the best. But we move on to Atlanta, where the Hawks get a 135-101 win over the Portland Trailblazers. Jonathan Kuminga comes off the bench for the Hawks. 20 points in 25 minutes, 7 of 10 from the floor, 1 of 2 from beyond the arc, 7 boards, 3 assists, couple of steals, a plus 20 in those 25 minutes. It looks to me, and it's early, he's only played 3 games, but it looks to me like they got a steal.
I mean, it's possible. Jonathan Kuminga's obviously been a super talented player. It's just a matter of him figuring out the basketball stuff when it matters the most. Right now, these are like low leverage, low usage games, and you don't have the pressure of playing for the Warriors and playing with Steph Curry and Draymond Green and all that. So it just changes the dynamic of how you play. And so it's just not as much pressure to go out there and be excellent on every single play. So, yeah, I mean, I think he just needs to go play basketball and just go use your talents, use your athleticism, use your skill set, and hopefully over time he figures out the other stuff as time goes on. I've watched a lot of Jonathan Kuminga. I'm very familiar with his game. So I do think Hawks fans, you have a lot of reason to be very excited about the explosion and the tenacity. But again, it's just about him maturing as an overall player. Hopefully he does get there.
Hopefully he does get there. I would like to see it. I think that it'd be better for basketball if the Hawks are good and if he's good. As far as Portland goes, Denny Avdia did not play in this game. He's still dealing with that back injury. Drew Holiday had 23 points. Donovan Clingan had 15 points. Tamani Kamara had a rough game in 35 minutes, was a minus 27, but did score 9 points, made a few 3-pointers in that one for the Blazers. But as we move on to the next game, the Los Angeles Lakers destroyed the Sacramento Kings. It was a little bit of a bigger blowout than I think the final score would indicate. 128-104 as the Kings continue to lose. They move to 14-48. The Lakers are 36-24. Let's hear from Locked On Lakers for more.
Co-host of the Locked On Lakers podcast. The Lakers get a 128-104 win over a very shorthanded, very, very bad Sacramento Kings squad in LA. And other than a bit of casual sloppiness towards the end of the second quarter and at the top of the third, the Lakers did a very good job keeping this thing a very appropriate laugher. 28 points and 9 assists for Luka Doncic in just 29 minutes. 24 points, 5 assists for LeBron James. 5 steals for Marcus Smart. The Lakers had 14 as a team, and they turned 20 Sacramento turnovers into 27 points. They also had 9 blocked shots. Again, the Kings are a bad team, but the Lakers did a very good job reminding everyone of that. Matt George, James Ham, you both deserve better. For more Lakers coverage, make sure you're watching Locked On Lakers on YouTube and listening wherever you get your podcasts.
You got anything from this one other than the Lakers are a solid team and the Kings are one of the worst in basketball?
No, the Lakers got to win. Again, winning matters. They got to win. They're currently now just a half game out of the 5th seed, and they're a game and a half out of the 4th seed with all of the issues they've had. So Yeah, they're like on track. They play Denver like this week, and they have a chance to put Denver in the 6th seed. So no, they're doing what they're supposed to do. They're winning the games. They're responding. They're only 5-5 in the last 10, but like at this point, bro, if you don't win games, like you're the ones that are actually taking the losses, and your record is a reflection of who you are. Despite all the issues the Lakers have, they're on their way to maybe being a home court team in the playoffs.
Yeah, that is a possibility. We'll have to wait and see. I think that that game against Denver is one to watch, and they have a few more big games coming up that'll tell us a lot about that team. But moving to the other team in LA, the Clippers get a 137-117 win over the Pelicans. Let's hear from our guy, Jake Madison, with more.
And the Pelicans fail a big test in their quest to make the play-in tournament. I'm Jake Madison, host of the Locked On Pelicans podcast. This was a big game, in my opinion. You could argue this is the biggest game remaining for the Pelicans this season. After a 4-game winning streak, they come back down to earth with a brutal, big-time loss against the Los Angeles Clippers. This was a game you have to win. I don't care about excuses of being on the second night of a back-to-back. No Zion Williamson in this one either. You had Trey Murphy back. You had DeJounte Murray back. Jeremiah Fears had a great game off the bench. If you want to be a play-in tournament team, a playoff team because of that, you're going to have to beat the Clippers. That's the team that this squad is chasing for 10th. And you lost big time on the road. Kind of really puts into perspective where this Pelicans team is. I got more over at the Locked On Pelicans podcast.
The Pelicans were never going to make it to the play-in. I think they went into today 9.5 games out of 10th. That was never going to happen. I know DeJounte Murray said that he would like to see it happen. That was always far-fetched. That was never going to happen. But I will say it's nice to see him back on the floor for New Orleans.
Yeah, overcoming an Achilles injury is no joke. So love to see him back playing basketball again.
And one note for the Clippers, too. Darius Garland did not play in this game, but it was reported by Chris Haynes that he is set to make his Clippers team debut on Monday. Personally, very excited to see what Garland looks like in a Clippers uniform, man.
Yeah, let's get all NBA Garland back. I hope he's healthy and ready to rock and roll.
He's such a talent, and it's been a shame to watch him be so hampered by toe injuries for the vast majority of this season. We've got 2 games left, including the Chicago Bulls getting a 120-97 win over the Milwaukee Bucks. The Bulls in this game at one point went on a 27-0 run, which I have never seen. I don't know that I've ever seen a run in an NBA game that large. And they ultimately outscored the Bucks 33-8 in the fourth quarter of this one.
Yeah, that's utterly ridiculous, by the way.
Insane.
So, yeah, shout out. That's a great victory that you got, but that is utterly ridiculous that you went on that kind of a run.
It is a big victory.
Bulls,
I mean, I guess
you didn't say the Thunder, the Bulls.
Oh, yes. Wait, did I say the Thunder?
No, you didn't. No, but the way you made it sound was like this must have been SGA and Chet and J-Dub that were doing this.
And for the record here, the Bulls went winless in February. Their last victory came on January 31st when they won a game in Miami. They lost every game they played in February, and then the calendar flips to March, and they look like the best team in basketball. It's unbelievable. They are not the best team in basketball. They are a very bad basketball team. But the fact that they go on a 27-0 run and hold Milwaukee to 8 points in the fourth quarter is remarkable, if nothing else. And then our final game of the day, the Cleveland Cavaliers get a 106-102 win over the Brooklyn Nets. The Cavs sleptwalked through this game. It was the final game of a road trip for them. However, they did get James Harden back. He had a nice night. 22 points, 9 boards, 8 assists as he plays through a fractured thumb in his right hand. Michael Porter Jr. had 26 points on 10 of 17 shooting and 5 of 8 from beyond the arc for the Nets in this one.
Man, yeah, great win for the Cavs.
It's a win. I think they're lucky they don't put pictures in the box score. The Cavs did not look impressive in this one, but this is a team that's played 7 games in 11 days out of the break. They look like they're ready for some time off. They will get some this week, but not before they play the Detroit Pistons on Tuesday. But before that, there are plenty of good games on Monday, and we will have you covered right here with Locked On NBA Game Night. So as we get out of here, please do us a favor. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button and the notification bell on YouTube if you have not already, and make sure you're subscribed wherever you might be listening to this podcast. That's Apple, that's Spotify, that's anywhere else. And this show will be back tomorrow talking about every NBA game.